Hello everybody. Welcome back to our little tarot corner. Allie from Totaro with a very long overdue VR. So I am in the midst of watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer for the first time. I would catch an episode here or there as it was on TV back in the day, but I am just now hopping on the train and watching the whole series myself. I am almost done, which is tragique. I do not want to be done, but it has been a major source of happiness and comfort, and I definitely get what the fuss is about, and I understand why there's such a resurgence recently into the Buffyverse. Anyway, to the point of today's video, I'm going to participate in a VR to Rumer Haven that is hashtag Scooby decks. So these are decks that remind you of characters of the Scooby Gang from Buffy, as well as outliers, some potential love interests, things like that. And of course, there are one or two big bads in here because obviously they needed to be here. So let's just jump right in. I will, of course, be linking Rumer's original video in the description below so that you can check out her original video. I tried to not watch very many VRs to this just because I wanted to try and keep it as original as I could to my own thoughts and kind of how I felt. But a couple of them I definitely agreed with hardcore, and that's kind of what I would have picked as well. So I went with it. But starting with the woman, the myth, the legend herself, Miss Buffy. So I did try to do 2 decks for each character, and just for video reference, I don't plan on necessarily rushing through this. We're just going to kind of hang out and see where it takes us. So for Buffy, I kind of went with how we kind of see her at the beginning of the series versus how she's kind of presenting in the later part of the series. And these are the Pulp Girls Tarot and the Moon Void Tarot. So let's start with the Pulp Girls. So I feel like this is a deck that Buffy would enjoy. That's another caveat too for this tag. I tried to pick decks that I could also see the characters like maybe actually wanting to use. So kind of not only what represents them, but kind of the decks that I could see them maybe using if they read tarot. These are the backs. So this deck to me definitely reads Buffy as she is. Actually, let me fix the lighting. Hold on. Let me see if that's a little better. Yeah, that kind of fixed it. This is kind of Buffy when we are introduced to her in the series. This deck is funky and kind of hip, girly. All the girls have like amazing eyelashes and lipstick, and their nails are done, and the clothes are funky. It's representative, but it's just ultimately very girly, I feel. So this kind of captures Buffy to me because, you know, when we first meet her, she's a high school cheerleader who just happens to go out and slay vampires, you know? But she does it with style. She does it with all of her femininity and her daintiness, but she still goes out there like, this is perfect. Like, she still goes out there. Well, I guess both of these are. She goes out there dressed in her high heels and her chunky sweaters or her pink tank tops and kicks ass, kills demons. So it just kind of reminds me of Buffy's style when we first meet her. And to be fair, you know, she does remain true to that throughout the series. She remains her, you know, she does maintain her femininity and, you know, the clothes that she likes to wear. But, yeah, so there's that. Another caveat that I should have mentioned, there may be potential spoilers in here. So if you haven't seen the series, just FYI, sorry about it. But the end of the series, to me, after everything that she goes through, everything being the very oversimplified term, Buffy to me kind of presents like the character in the Moon Void Tarot. I've talked about this deck before. This is the first version or first edition. I'm not sure which printing, but right now I know that it's in the third version, and I think that version, well, I know that version is pink, and some of the cards have been changed. I'm not a pink person, but I have debated on getting that deck, but the thing is that I'm really bonded to this one. Anyway, but this is the original, and the reason why I feel like this is later Buffy is because the whole deck follows this single character, which obviously Buffy the Vampire Slayer, this series, does as well. It tells Buffy's story, but it's also black and white with pops of red. There's no pink in this deck, but it is black, white, and red. And after everything that Buffy goes through, I kind of feel like this becomes her. You know, she's more adult. She's more attuned to who she is. Like, this right here is a pretty good representation, I think, of the Buffy towards the end of the series, but it has to do with her evolution as a character, and kind of, you know, after she was brought back by Willow, kind of represents the lack of color to her. You know, she was at peace and then brought back to our world, brought back to her hell, and she kind of becomes somewhat, I would argue, of a tortured soul. She doesn't quite know where she fits in anymore. Other than obviously she knows that she's got to fulfill her Slayer duties, but she's a different person. She's definitely more serious, and you know, she's been traumatized. She's seen some stuff, so she kind of transitions from this fun, girly cheerleader to a whole ass woman who begins to see the world in black and white. You know, she sees the realities of taking care of her sister, of continuing to be the Slayer, of dealing with having been at peace and then having been brought back to this loud, chaotic, horrible world, back into hell. So yeah, if you know, you know, but this to me represents Buffy towards the end of the series. Now, I am on season 7, but I'm not finished, so it is the final series, or the final season, rather, of the show. I'm almost there, so I don't know the very, very end yet, but from where I'm standing, that fits. The next character that I picked decks for is Sweet Xander. I'm actually going to take a quick sip. And Xander, oh, sweet baby Xander. He is a character that breaks my heart. I will say this series is phenomenal at character development, story arcs. Each one of these characters, some more so than others, I'll admit, in my opinion, but all of the characters have incredible story arcs. All of them become complex and interesting, and each one of them has their own journey throughout the series. Xander is no different. For him, I chose the 8-Bit Fantasy Tarot, and this was a Kickstarter that I backed. This is by, I don't remember who it's by. I'll see their name in a second, but the 8-Bit Fantasy Tarot, and then that's the beginning of the series, and then Xander towards the end of the series, I chose the Augenblick Tarot. Let's get into them. So, for the 8-Bit Fantasy Tarot, again, this was a Kickstarter that I backed. This was by Marvoli Magic. I don't know if you can still get this deck. I know that, like I said, it was a Kickstarter that I backed. But the whole premise of this deck is that it is an RWS. It is a square deck. It's a pocket square deck, so it's kind of small. But it is an 8-bit version of the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot. So it's like reading tarot in a video game. I chose this because when we meet Zero, combining Xander and Willow, when we meet Xander, he is kind of the doofus of the group, right? He's always cracking jokes. He's light of heart, which as he goes on, his character becomes one of the cornerstones of heart in the group, for sure. But, you know, he's not very serious. He's just kind of a goof. And he's a kid, you know, likes video games and comic books and goofing off, and Willow's his best friend, but he's just, you know, he's just a kid. And I just feel like this is something that he would enjoy. Also, tragically, one of the sadder parts of Xander's story arc is, you know, his upbringing, his home life. He really kind of raises himself. He kind of has to be his own person. His parents kind of just really aren't there for him at all. Father is an alcoholic, and his mom is just kind of checked out. So he really doesn't have any solid role models for stability in his life. So he kind of raises himself. And so his story arc is all about finding who he is and finding out where he fits in the adult world. You know, when Buffy and Willow go off to college, he doesn't. But he kind of becomes aimless and doesn't really know what to do with his life. And he kind of, you know, loses himself for a minute. And then as we see him grow up more and more, we see him turn into obviously a completely wonderful, I put that in upside down. He becomes a completely wonderful, marvelous man. He's just so sad. So anyway, that is the beginning of the series, Xander. And then the end of the series, I chose Augenblick for a couple of reasons. Number one, which I kind of just now noticed and kind of put two and two together. It is, again, a square deck, but it is not pocket-sized. It is almost like an oracle card size, the width, but obviously it's shorter. So, you know, if it were this tall, it'd be total oracle size. But it's still a square. These are just some extra cards. These are the backs. So that's one evolution that I just, again, realized that that existed, square to square. This deck reminds me of Xander towards the end of the series, because not only does he come to be a carpenter and work in construction, which this deck focuses heavily, mostly on architecture and buildings. So not only does it fit his literal adult career, but it also, because of the nature of building and foundation and the process of building a structure that is supposed to stand the test of time, you know, it takes skill, it takes knowledge, and it takes commitment, it takes time. Things aren't built overnight. And it just reminds me of the foundation that I'm gonna get like teary-eyed. Whew, let me take another sip. It just kind of makes me think of the stability that Xander begins to provide for himself. He is the one that builds his own future, with, you know, the help and sometimes prodding of his friends and Anya, who we will talk about in a little bit. But he does. He makes his life his own. He becomes adult. He becomes a man. He gains, like I said, this steady carpentry construction job, and he just gives himself structure. He gives himself a base. He provides the life that he wanted, the stability that he wanted and craved and didn't get as a kid. He makes it himself. He builds things with his own hands, literally and metaphorically. And so I just thought that this deck was pretty reminiscent of that. And, you know, sometimes, like we see here in the star card, things are kind of built into nature, so it kind of works with it. But then other times, you know, this wall, an ancient ruin it looks like in the sun card, and it's just something that stood the test of time. You know, we all have to grow up, and that does not mean that we lose the beauty that we had. That does not mean that we lose the joy that we bring or the levity that we can present in situations, but at the same time, we know what we stand for now, and we know what we want, and we build what we want, and we create the foundation for ourselves that we weren't given. That's kind of where Xander comes from. So that's why I chose the Augenblick. Unfortunately, this deck is out of print. I don't know if it has been reprinted, if it will be reprinted or anything like that. I'm not sure. I do know that there was also a version that was like standard tarot size. I just found this one online through a Facebook group and jumped on it. I do have the larger guidebook in this bag as well that kind of goes into the card choices. But yeah, that one was kind of rambly, sorry, but I think you can kind of understand what I'm saying about Xander's character development. It's a far cry from, you know, video games and having fun and goofing off to really creating something for yourself. So that's Xander. Next, let's see. Oh, we're already like 20 minutes in, 2 characters. That's fine. That's fine. We're here for a long time and a good time. Okay, next is Willow. Oh, Willow. This little lady also has quite the evolution. When I think about Willow, I think about obviously magic, but I think about that hardcore friend, that ride or die person that you know will always be there for you, that real right-hand friend. When we meet her, she is getting teased by Cordelia, who we will also talk about here in a little bit. She's being picked on by Cordelia when Buffy moves to Sunnydale High, and Buffy stands up for her and befriends her. She befriends Willow, and it's just the start of a beautiful friendship from there. And, you know, when we meet her, she's very childlike. She's very bright and colorful, and she wears really fun colors, and she's just a good girl. You know, she's a great student. She's kind of shy, doesn't really rock the boat, super smart, just wonderful, sweet Willow. And for that, I chose the Playful Heart Tarot. For Willow towards the end of the series, I chose the Practical Magic Inner Witch Tarot, which is relatively new to my collection. I did not back the Kickstarter, but I got it in the shop after, and I think you can still get it. This is a really recent Kickstarter. This is by Grounded by the Moon, and they also created the Practical Magic Oracle, and I have that as well. But Playful Heart. Again, when we first meet Tara, she is bright. She is sweet. She is kind of carefree. She is all about, you know, happy and rainbows and kindness and all of the things that kind of come full circle to me in this deck. It doesn't shy away from the difficult cards, as I've showed before. I've showed this deck here. But, you know, it, for the most part, it kind of doesn't tend to take itself too seriously. Now, again, granted, that doesn't mean you can't use it for serious readings, but it's very aptly named, you know? It's about play, it's about color, it's about brightness, it's about fun. Like, even this particular deck I bought from Zara at Kitten Shops, she edged it herself, so it came completely edged in all different colors. It was one of the decks that she had left in her shop, and I hopped on it so quickly. But yeah, just neon colors and creative and artsy, and like, look at the strength card. She's cuddling a lion. Like, can we get any more early series Willow? I think not. Well, Willow actually probably wouldn't go near a lion. She'd be too afraid. But you get the principle. Everybody's happy. Everybody's smiling. Everybody's, we've got fruit and lollipops, and we're riding leopards. It's fun, and we're riding birds, and very kind of creative and imaginative, and so that just to me speaks of early Willow. And once again, that is the Playful Heart Tarot by Zara at Kitten Shops. And as I've shown before as well, my Moonlit Fae bag, that matches perfectly. This was a custom bag fabric that she created with Zara. So that's early Willow. Late Willow. Sip time real quick. Late Willow. Willow goes through her paces, man. She, yeah. She puts everybody else through their paces, too. Well, first, let's start by the kind of color scheme here. So these are the backs with all the elements on it. And it's got black holographic edging, which is stunning. All the card backgrounds are black. This deck kind of, I feel it shows reverence. It's very reverent toward magic. It feels to me very adult. It's not, like, this is not a deck that I would use to read for kids. Not that it's scary, by any means. I mean, there's like spiders and a spider, that we saw, and like, so it's not scary, but I just don't feel like I could see Willow sitting here doing one of her spells, with her crystal ball and candles. This deck just kind of brings it full circle. It kind of, again, the word that comes to mind is reverent. It honors magic. It has a more balanced approach to magic, it feels like. A salt circle around the elements. Like, that's very, very Willow. I think Willow has an addictive personality, and obviously that causes her to run off the rails a couple times. And I don't know what I'm trying to articulate. I do, but I'm having difficulty bringing the words to mind. Essentially, it just kind of represents grown-up Willow to me, how she goes through the pain that she grows through. She doesn't even begin this series really being aware that she can do magic. She kind of walks her way into it, and from there she shows that she's a very powerful Wicca, and she just completely runs with it and dives in headfirst and has incredible power. But she loses herself a couple times through the series, and for her, it's all about being able to show that reverence for magic, being able to show respect for the magic, to not treat it like a toy or a game. There are consequences. There are checks and balances within magic that you just can't, you have to respect it. And this kind of, to me, represents Willow as she begins to understand just what magic means and what magic is. I gotta tell you, I kind of get frustrated towards the end of the series with Willow. She was one of my favorites at first. And now I don't know, man. She's scary. She's a little scary, but she always has a wonderful heart, and she's always got her Scooby gang to bring her back to Earth. So, but that still to me feels like more adult Willow, and that is the Practical Magic Inner Witch Tarot. I really am continuing to ramble. I'm so sorry, but again, y'all clicked on my video, so you're here to play, right? Okay, the next one is really, really fun. It is Sir Rupert Giles, our wonderful, wonderful watcher. Now, for Giles, I do have to echo 100% what Rumer Haven did in her video. I chose the Spirit Keepers Tarot, the Revelation Edition, the most recent version that Benabelwin has come out with, and then the Hellenic Oracle by Thea at Garden Goddess. So, when I was watching Rumer Haven's tag, these in the backs, gold gilding, I've shown this deck before, but when I was watching Rumer's tag, before she even said this deck, I immediately knew what deck I would pick for him. And then she said the one line that has to be one of my favorite Giles lines ever. So I'm also going to include that in my choice because it just my thoughts exactly. I was going to pick this 100%. And then it was really funny that she turned around in her video and said this too. But yeah, so this deck just is, it is Giles in my opinion. It is something that I think I could see him, throwing cards and, trying to use the cultural and historical context, as well as all the knowledge in the Book of Maps and the journal, which I happen to have both of those. I'm not going to bring out the Book of Maps right now because it's huge, but if you've seen it, you've seen it. It's massive. And, there's all kinds of stuff that you can get into with this deck. There is the deacons or decans. There is the I Ching or I Ching symbols. There is all kinds of esoterica and history to this deck. Even the way that it is colored, that's not just blue. There are splotches of red in it. His crown, like just the insane amount of detail that went into this deck is incredible. And Benabelwin is so knowledgeable about all of the things that she talks about in this deck and in the book. This deck is still very, very intimidating to me. It's not a deck that I want to just use as an RWS. Benabelwin says that you definitely can. I mean, you certainly can. But it's all there to go deeper into it if you want to. And it also has the astrology I neglected to mention. But I'm sure you've seen this deck. It is Giles. It is knowledge of the esoterica and of the occult in a deck. And the line from the show that perfectly encapsulates Giles to me, that he says, when I was watching this particular episode and he said this line, I legit had to pause for a good solid couple minutes because I could not stop chuckling. I found it so funny. They're talking about using Latin and using spells and magic, and Riley says something like, does it actually matter? Does it have to be in Latin? Or I can't remember his exact line, but something like that. And Xander goes, well, yeah. And he's got a big book in his lap. And he's like, I mean, you can't just, say, and he says something in Latin, I forget what he says, but it's basically book on fire or something like that in Latin. And he says, you can't say that and just expect, and then the book sets on fire. And he shuts it real fast. And Giles just looks at him from across the room. He just sighs and he says, Xander, don't speak Latin in front of the books. That was it. That was the line. But, oh God, I don't know why it killed me, but that was so funny. Don't speak Latin in front of the books. Like, just exasperated by having to wrangle all these kids in the Scooby gang. Exasperated by having to be the watcher to a girl who's more concerned with cheerleader tryouts and going to parties than she is about her calling. Just funny. So, yeah. This, to me, is a Giles deck, and that's a Spirit Keeper's Tarot. The other deck that I chose for him, I kind of chose along the same lines. Now, I guess Giles really, to me, he's a pretty solid character. He has his own personal arc, sure, but it's not necessarily becoming as much of a different person, in my opinion, as some of the other characters. Like, he stays pretty rock solid. So it's not necessarily beginning of the series and end of the series for him. This is just another deck that I think he would like. And this is the lovely Hellenic Oracle by Thea, Garden Goddess Tarot. Again, for the same reasons that I chose the Spirit Keeper's Tarot, this oracle is full of Greek mythology and this just beautiful, beautiful artwork. It feels so incredibly intelligent, and it is a deck that she does not provide a guidebook, but I kind of like that because every time I draw, a card, that gives me, of course you can draw intuitively off of what you're seeing, like sirens. I don't necessarily need a guidebook to tell me about the sirens because I know the sirens. I know what they're about. I know what they do. So this just makes sense to me. But if I wanted to, I could dive deeper into it. But for this one, for example, Hesperides, she's also got the traditional Greek spelling for each card above as well, which I thought was a really, really cool touch. I know nothing about a lot of these characters or figures or deities, places, things, like see the Asphodel Meadows. I know nothing about them, but that affords me the opportunity for some study time to hit the books, to find my own information about it and kind of come up with my own way to read the deck. And I thought that was actually really, really cool that Thea has kind of given us that opportunity. It's just a way for you to kind of build your own oracle, to build your own reading style with it. And of course, gaze at the beautiful museum quality artwork that she has curated for this deck. Again, it feels very studious and very much classical and very much Giles' style. So say that 5 times fast. So yeah, so I just think that this was a very appropriate oracle deck maybe for our beloved watcher, and that is the Hellenic Oracle. Okay, let's see. So our next character is Cordelia. So I know that Cordelia is like one of our small bullies in the show. She doesn't stick around forever. Not that she dies, but she doesn't really stick around forever in Buffy. I do know that she appears more in the crossover show Angel, which is about, you guessed it, Angel. I haven't watched Angel though, so I know that we get to know her a little bit differently and a little bit more in depth in that show. I can't speak to that. I can only speak to her in Buffy. So for her, again, I don't necessarily, I mean, I do have a character arc, but it's such a short arc to me. And what I find interesting is that she kind of reverts. It's kind of like she goes up on the bell curve and then comes way back down. And kind of reverts to who she was in the beginning when we met her, which, again, I know that there's more to it. We just don't see it in Buffy. Well, I guess we kind of do. I don't know. I know that there's way more detail about Cordelia's deeper story than we see on Buffy. She obviously goes through her own shit that we see in the show that could explain it as well, but I know that there's more depth to her that we don't see. But because of that, her decks that I chose are the Squid Cake Marseille and the Thanks, I Hate It Oracle deck. So to begin, Squid Cake Marseille is just one of those decks. First of all, it's adorable. This is the mass market version of this deck. It is brand new to the mass market. This is by Jess Roller. Now this deck was indie for a long time and then went out of print, and then, like I said, just came out mass market. This deck is kind of quirky and weird, but it's very, very beautiful. It's got pinks and strawberries and blues, kind of girly, bright colors. It is a little strange for Cordelia's taste, but the reason why I kind of feel like it fits her is because the thing about Marseille is that obviously the minors are hardcore pips. So it's not literally much to look at. However, there's a whole different system underneath Marseille that is a little bit different than Rider-Waite-Smith. And I respect Jess a lot because in her book, she talks about the traditional meanings as it pertains to the Marseille. So, for example, the Two of Wands. It says, you started walking forward only to come across a sign with a large X on it, reading, no trespassing. It's a small bump in your road, and you need to decide what action to take next. Rather than just giving up, you're invited to put in a little effort to take a slightly longer path around the blockage, so you need to work on a modest plan. And then it gives you kind of what you're seeing. So it says there's a prominent X in the center of this card. But there's also a lot of growth happening around the two batons, flowers in the north and south, with budding leaves to the east and west. The Two of Batons is like a compass indicating you have potential no matter which direction you take. You just need to figure out your best path. So while it aligns very, very much so with kind of the meaning as you can understand it in Rider-Waite, she goes on more traditional actual Marseille meanings. So there's just more to it than just, let me actually see if I can find the two ones. Here. So this kind of does the same thing where there are flowers and leaves. So there's growth. So there's a reason why things are as they are, and it's just more in depth than we give it credit for. It's more than just a pretty deck, basically, is what I'm getting at here. Again, and we also do see Cordelia kind of become part of the Scooby Gang and kind of become inundated in this world and kind of be like, oh, we're fighting dead people again today? Okay. Weird, but whatever. And so, it's kind of got that quirkiness that she kind of comes into being familiar with. But then again, she and Xander kind of get together and then they kind of fizzle out and we just really don't see her, and she kind of becomes a bully again. So she's just a complicated girl. Complicated and more than just a pretty girl. There's more substance to her than we see. So that's why I chose the Marshmallow Marseille. I am so sorry. The Squid Cake Marseille by Jess Roller. The other part of Cordelia that I wanted to talk about is her just bluntness. She is a blunt bitch sometimes. if I may be so bold. And because of that, I chose the Thanks, I Hate It Oracle deck by Busy Coven. Cordelia is not afraid to speak her mind. She is not afraid to call it how she sees it and tell you when you're being stupid, and she'll call you on your shit. Like here, busy buzzing. Are you staying busy or distracting yourself from things you need to be thinking about? The gentle buzzing hum keeps you calm, but eventually you have to deal with your own thoughts. And then what's the tea? Very Cordelia phrase. Yeah, she's not afraid to say it. I forget. Rumer was just so good. She also mentioned a phrase that Cordelia says, something about like niceties are just covering up the truth, or like niceties are just covering up what you really want to say. I'm not about it. Something like that. Like, no thank you, I think is her line. And that's just kind of what this deck is. It's like, it's blunt. It's going to tell you about it. It's not going to sugarcoat it, but it's here for you, you know? Yeah. Just a great deck. Like, hot dish. Life has served you up a hot dish. Think of this as a warm hug from your favorite Midwestern mom. You need some comfort, sweetie, and sometimes you got to give that comfort to yourself. Take out the trash. This could be literal or figurative, but you need to get rid of it. We're done with that stinky pile of filth. Take it out and be done with it. Or them. Just blunt. I love it. Oh, actually, let's read this one. This is the namesake of the deck. Thanks, I hate it. Life will give you lessons. They may not be fun, but they are things you need to know. Listen to the lessons so that you don't repeat the mistakes of your past. Thanks, I hate it. So I just love it. I love it very much. That is our blunt Cordelia deck, the Thanks, I Hate It Oracle by Busy Coven. Whoa. Just gonna slam into my phone there. Sorry about that if that made crazy noise. So yeah, that's my Cordelia decks. Oh, Cordy. Cordy. As I'm sitting here, I realize that I've forgotten 2 characters. Okay, maybe we'll sneak them in at the end. Anyways. Who's next? Okay, so we have Dawn. Buffy's little sister, Dawn. AKA the Key, Dawn. So, I gotta tell you, I'm also frustrated with Dawn right now. First of all, I think, as has been discussed before, it was just a writing oversight. They originally wrote for Dawn to be a younger character, and then Michelle Trachtenberg got cast, and they didn't really like rewrite the script to be appropriate for Michelle's age, visual age. So, I mean, you have 30-year-olds playing high school kids. Like, it's not necessarily her literal age, but it's the character's age. She was written to be a young kid, and Michelle Trachtenberg is just too old to be a little kid. But they didn't like rewrite her, so she comes off as much more of a little kid than physically fits, I think. But anyway, her decks are the Everyday Witch Tarot and the Mio M's Tarot for towards the end of the series, Dawn. So like I said in the beginning, we meet Dawn, and she's just kind of very immature. She's very much a pouty, kind of whiny younger sibling. She's just a kid, though, you know? And so I chose this deck because it reminds me of something that kids enjoy. It is kind of fairy tale world. You got the pointy hats and the brooms. So I feel like this is something that early series, Dawn would really like. You know, it's kind of telling stories, kind of, again, creating this whole fantasy world where they're like witches making potions and, you know, that kind of stuff. It's just a fun deck. Now it can be sassy at times too. I've told this story before, but this is actually the third copy I've had of this deck, but it does not want to go away. So, yeah, it's a great deck. It's a very good reader, but this to me just speaks of kind of a kid-friendly deck, an inner child tarot deck that a younger person I feel like could use. You know, there's not nudity in the deck. There's not anything super, super scary. I mean, there's a masked figure that we saw, but it's not necessarily scary, you know? It's just kind of, it's a little fantasy deck. So that is beginning the series, Dawn, and that's the Everyday Witch Tarot. Now, by the end of the series, Dawn kind of comes into her own. Again, I know most of the characters we can argue that for, but, you know, Buffy still protects Dawn, but she begins to open up and realize that she can't protect Dawn from everything, and that the reality is Dawn needs to see the world as it is. She needs to know what's out there. She needs to know what's going on. And I actually featured this in my last tarot tag too, I believe. But this is the Mio M's Tarot. Giant, super big cards. It's got a delicious linen finish. But yeah, so the reason why this to me is like later series Dawn is because, as I said, Dawn kind of, she always throughout the series kind of invites herself to know more than everybody is telling her. She's kind of mischievous and a typical rebellious teenager. Sometimes she gets into some serious trouble. Luckily, Buffy is always there to bail her out, and the rest of the Scoobies. But by the end, you know, she's really starting to see things for what they are. And she's always very insistent that I don't need you to protect me. Like, I need you to tell me things. I don't want you to hide them from me. Like, I can take care of myself. I can understand it. I can take the news. I can take being included in the gang. I'm a big kid too, kind of deal. And so to me, this kind of ages with her. I think last time I mentioned that this was like a Wednesday Addams deck, and that's very, very true. But again, I think it comes back to that kind of like punk, rebellious type of nature, why this also feels like a Dawn deck. You know, she's dealing with a lot of emo angst about how to come into this world and, you know, be a teenager and how to deal with boys. And she's also eventually got to deal with the fact that she's some like freaking mystical key to this other universe and that she doesn't exist. Like, what? Like, that's a lot. That's a lot for a teenager to grapple with. So she's definitely got a lot of shit going on. But, you know, towards the end of the series, she starts kind of helping Buffy and really just like, I can do this. Like, I'm stronger than you think. I can take it. Let me help. Let me learn. Teach me. Don't just keep me sheltered in the house all the time. Like, let me be there. Let me help. So yeah. Still frustrated by her, but I think that's just a me thing. But yeah, that is my end of series deck for Dawn, and that is the Mio M's Tarot. I hope my reasonings like are making sense. I know she says for the 18 billionth time. I know I'm kind of rambling, but yeah, it is what it is. Okie dokie, artichokey. Who's next? Let's see. Let me consult my master list. Joyce. Oh, Joyce. Mama J. So, I had a fun time picking for Joyce. Joyce is one of those characters that you just gotta love. You just gotta love. She comes across in the beginning of the series as kind of an absent mom, as kind of an uncaring mom, kind of a too preoccupied to pay attention to the fact that her daughter is going out and slaying demons mom. But you become endeared to her, and especially once she's aware of who Buffy is and what she does, you kind of see this other side to her, and you realize that even in the beginning, before she knew, she was just trying to make it all work. You know, she was trying to stay busy at her art gallery to help take care of Buffy. She was being a single mom, essentially, and just trying to keep it all together. And we see later in the series, again, huge spoiler if you don't want to see it, move along. When we lose Joyce, you know, Buffy kind of has to start doing all the things that Joyce did herself. You know, she has to keep up with the mundane housework. She has to make sure Dawn is fed and taken care of and goes to school. She has to make sure bills are paid. She has to make it all happen, and she kind of has to step into her mom's role. And she really comes to appreciate just how much her mom did. And so for Joyce, I chose my classic Centennial Rider-Waite-Smith and Song of the Grandmothers. So, as I said, in the beginning, Joyce does not know that Buffy is the Slayer. She doesn't know anything about Buffy's secret life. You know, she doesn't know anything about it. She's not comfortable with really the occult, with anything otherworldly, with anything kind of in that type of world. So for her first deck, I kind of chose something that once Joyce warms up to and begins to understand Buffy's role as the Slayer, she wants to understand more of Buffy's world, which I think it's funny that the Temperance card reminds me of Joyce with her hair a little bit. And it's kind of that energy of keeping it all together, you know, keeping everything in balance, you know, 1 foot here, 1 foot there, one cup into the other, kind of keeping it all together, you know. But earlier when I said that, you know, I picked decks based on what characters would use, I feel like even though Joyce got comfortable-ish being in Buffy's world and knowing things, I still think that she felt a little bit intimidated or frightened by the things that she didn't understand. And so I kind of feel like if I handed Joyce a tarot deck, she would kind of be like, oh, okay, I guess. Yeah, I'll learn tarot. You know, you would kind of want to give her something that was classic, not gory or scary, not overwhelming, just the basics. You know, you would want to keep it simple for her, and she would kind of want to keep it simple too. I have a feeling that, like, I would give Joyce this deck and she would be like, oh, thank you, honey, and she would keep it up on her shelf and, like, not bring it out. Who knows, you know, maybe she gets a wild hair and learns to read them. But honestly, I just feel like Joyce wouldn't necessarily read tarot herself, but if she did, I feel like she would want something that wasn't too out there, too crazy. So nothing super bright, nothing, you know, nothing overwhelming. So that's why I chose the regular Rider-Waite-Smith. And then, of course, because she is literally the mom, but also the guardian, the calming presence, the one who keeps it all together, the gentle guiding hand for her daughters, I chose the Song of the Grandmothers Oracle. I've shown this one a bunch here as well. This deck just also fits Joyce to me. It doesn't always have the gentlest messages. Some of them are tough to take, but it is always for your better good. It is always to improve you, and it is always said with love. You know, even if it's kind of not the most gentle message, it is something that you need. It is something that's going to make you better. It is something that will help you navigate through a hard time. Whether or not the actual message is gentle, ultimately it will serve your good, your best your best self, your highest self. So this is just a wonderful oracle deck and very maternal, obviously, in the messages that it gives. And I just love it. I have like an entire walkthrough of this deck. You can look back at my videos and see it. There are a ton everywhere now. But yes, that's my second Joyce deck. That is the Song of the Grandmother's Oracle. Oh no. There we go. How we doing, friends? Let's see. Oh, we're almost at an hour. That's fine. It's fine. Okay. Who's next? Okay, so now let's talk about some lovers. So the first one I want to talk about is Miss Tara. Tara. I love Tara. She is everything that Willow needs. She is the yin to Willow's yang. She is the calm to Willow's storm, and vice versa. They balance each other out so well, but Tara is always that soothing, sweet, kind, guiding presence, that gentle love that Willow needs. So her two decks that I picked were the White Sage Tarot and the Narrative Alchemy Tarot. Now, White Sage, initially I was going to pick the Gentle Tarot, but I thought, A, I show that way too much here because y'all know that's one of my favorites. And B, I think Tara deserves something that's even more gentle. And so that's why I chose the White Sage Tarot. Now this is the full-size version. As far as I know, it's out of print. I was able to get this from someone in a Facebook group for like a ridiculously cheap price, so I jumped at it, but you can still definitely get the tarot in a tin, which is easily just as wonderful, and I had that version before I got this one. But the thing about this deck, not only is the art very soft and, you know, pastels, but it's also all these ribbons that are in the minors are tied to the chakra system. And so it kind of brings in another layer of knowledge that connects everything. And Tara was kind of always that thing that held Willow together when she was kind of falling apart. You know, she was Willow's metaphorical ribbon, and very knowledgeable about, you know, magic. She kind of tried to play it off like Willow was always a step ahead of her, but I don't know, man. I don't know. I think Tara was incredibly powerful as well. So yeah, I just think this is just such an incredible deck. It's very soothing. I will read with this one before bedtime. At the end of my day, just to kind of, you know, sling some cards before I go to sleep. And it's just relaxing to look at. There's no jarring bright colors. And its messages are always really, really wonderful. So that's my first tarot deck, and that is the White Sage Tarot. My next deck kind of also ties into the chakra system, and that is the Narrative Alchemy Tarot by Chrissy Bentley. So this one, again, I wasn't even thinking about the chakra connection until I just said it. So I'm kind of having these realizations as they come, which is great. Came in this lovely bag that matches the backs. I'm obsessed. I think Chrissy has stopped printing them herself. You can soon, I want to say, get it on Make Playing Cards, ? Or Printer Studio. Either way, somewhere online you'll be able to print the new editions soon, if not already. I gotta be honest, maybe I should know that information, but I don't, quite frankly, because I have this version, so I haven't looked. This deck, I chose to be Tara because, just like with the White Sage Tarot, where everything is kind of connected, I feel like Tara was a wonderful partner for Willow in that she kind of gave Willow space to be herself. She accepted and loved and embraced all of Willow, even on the bad days. And she was always there to be Willow's right hand, to be a help to her. And I think what she was really, really valuable with as well was that she kind of let Willow find her own way while always being there to offer guidance. So this deck, as I've talked about before, because again, this is not a new one that y'all are seeing. All the cards are color coordinated according to chakras, and each card has a keyword on it for whichever major or minor card it is associated with. The Roman numerals are the majors, and you have the number with the element for the minors. The quartz are just numbered 11 through 14 of the element. But this deck is super versatile. Again, you can use it for color magic. You can use it for chakras. You can simply use it as an oracle, traverse, release, preservation, collapse, togetherness, inquire. So you can just use the word. You can use it to build spreads. You can lay a couple cards out and say, okay, so, where am I going? What is my current path right now? Where am I headed to? What do I need to let go in order to move? And how will this change? Like, what kind of change will I see as a result of moving on and releasing what I need in order to move on? So you see, that was really quick and kind of a sloppy example, but this deck just has so many uses, and you can use it to guide you in multiple ways. It doesn't fit in a single space. It does whatever you need it to. It's kind of there for whatever you need it for. And I definitely feel like that aligns with Tara. She was always there for Willow in whatever capacity she needed her to be. And I just love her. So that's why I chose this deck. That is the Narrative Alchemy Tarot by Chrissy Bentley. Good God, shaking the camera again. Sorry, y'all. Okay. Next is Oz. Sweet, sweet Oz. So one of these decks is just kind of really on the nose, but I have my reasons. And the second one is just kind of something that I really feel like he'd enjoy. So the one that I just feel like he'd enjoy is the Moon Power Tarot. And the one that I do feel is kind of on the nose, but also I have reasons, is my Barkana Tarot. So let's start with the Moon Power. So Oz to me is just always a funky character. He is weird. He's kind of out there. He's quiet, but he also has like a bunch to say, and he's just cool. Like, he's in this rock band. He's kind of moody and mysterious because he's kind of a man of few words. But he also kind of has a nerdy side. And this deck kind of reminds me of something that he would just look at and be like, huh, cool. And again, he's kind of a character that I don't really know would read tarot. Aside from him being a part in the occult, in that he himself is a werewolf, he's just kind of a normal dude. So I think this is just something that he would be into looking at and would kind of think it was funky. If he did read tarot, I think, again, it would just be because he would kind of think it was weird and kind of like punk and would dig it, But yeah, that's the Moon Power Tarot. To be quite honest, I kind of struggled for Oz picking out a second deck, just because I knew I wanted to do Barkana, but then I just thought about it and I was like, he would just be kind of weird. Like, he would like something that was kind of off the beaten path and not cookie cutter and kind of bright and interesting and kind of punk, because he is a rocker. So that's why I chose Moon Power. Then the Barkana. It's on the nose because it's a dog tarot. It's also got moons on it, which werewolf. Hello. But Oz is the sweetest companion to Willow. He is loyal as anything. He will do anything to protect her. He will do anything to keep her safe. He will do anything if she needs something. If she were to call him and say, I need you to fly to Paris, meet this man with a briefcase, and just don't ask questions, he would be like, okay, let me get my ticket booked. You know, like he just loved her with his whole heart. And, you know, perfect segue. When he left to do what he felt he needed to do to protect Willow and to protect her friends. You know, he had this darkness inside of him that he needed to learn to control, and he needed to learn to work with and come to grips with and kind of learn and understand about himself so that he wasn't a danger. And so he knew when to walk away to keep Willow safe. And of course, it completely broke her and shattered her into terra. But even then, he comes back from where he's been, and he has everything under control. He's learned to deal with his inner beast, and he's learned to control it, and he's learned how to keep himself safe and others safe and meditate and find the inner peace that keeps him man and not werewolf. And then, of course, obviously he finds out about Tara, and he decides, again, perfect card, perfect segue. He leaves again because he doesn't want to hurt Tara, or he doesn't want to hurt Tara, but he doesn't want to hurt Willow. And he knows now that even though he's gone on this whole journey and come back a better version of himself, the version of himself that Willow would need, he realizes that what's best for her is if he goes. So again, it is all in loyalty to Willow. It is all being her best friend and cheering her on and wanting her to be safe and happy, and just the loyalty that means. That is why I chose the Barkana Tarot. Oh, Oz. Yeah, he's just another one of those loaded characters, you know? Okay. Just a few more here. Let's see, am I even still recording? Yeah. Okay. Next person we're going to talk about is Anya, Miss Anyanka, the Vengeance Demon. She's fun. She is fun, and she's a character. So again, this one may seem a little bit on the nose, but I have my reasons. But I chose for Anya the Golden Art Nouveau Tarot and the Housewives Tarot. So Anyanka is very materialistic. She loves money. She loves all things shiny. She loves all things gold. She is all about what she can get. She's all about the material world. But she's also got history. She is old. She is an older demon. She's the oldest character on the show, I think. And so for her, I kind of wanted to pick something with a little bit of bling that would appeal to her. She'd be like, ooh, shiny. But also, a deck that I could see her using, if not just for the literal gold, also for the fact that it is a traditional Rider-Waite-Smith system. Though it is not a literal RWS, so this wouldn't have been around in her time. It is the traditional tarot, So I don't know. I just thought that kind of fit her. So that's the Golden Art Nouveau Tarot. Yeah, so much shiny. The other one that I chose for her kind of more towards the end of the series is the Housewives Tarot. Now again, maybe a little bit on the nose, but I have my reasons. So towards the end, the middle of the series, Anya and Xander become a thing. This is the backs. And unfortunately, he leaves her at the altar. This deck represents everything I feel that Anyanka kind of desires to be. You know, she just wants to be loved. When she realizes that she no longer has her powers as a vengeance demon and she falls in love with Xander, you know, because of her materialistic nature, she just wants to be taken care of. She just wants to know that she can have all the things that she wants. She just wants that happy life, that loving relationship, the loving partner who will buy her all the things. But that's what she's looking for. But the thing about her is that she is very much like Cordelia in that she will also call you on your shit. She will also tell you exactly what she's thinking. She's not afraid to step on toes. In fact, she would rather step on your toes than take the effort to step around your feet so that she doesn't step on them. She just doesn't see the point. You know, she says, I've lived however long, and I just don't see the point in niceties. Like, what is the point? When Buffy's mom dies, you know, she's like, what's going to happen? Are we going to see the body? Like, and that just comes from her not understanding the human mourning process and the human process of death, because, you know, she's a demon. She lives forever. She's immortal. But she has this whole arc of like trying to figure out who she's going to be as a human. She wants to be happily with Xander, with all the things that she wants at her disposal, you know. But deep down it isn't perfect. It isn't cookie cutter. It's not 50s housewife. And really, she doesn't want to be that. She wants the relationship with Xander, but she's not going to be submissive. You know, on their wedding day, she's kind of rehearsing her vows with Tara. And she's like, I promise to, what was it? Oh, I promise to honor you, but not obey you, of course, because what am I? Like, so she's just very, you're not going to get a 50s housewife. She wants the 50s housewife home life with fine dinners and parties and money and perfect pie and, you know, but she's not, but at the same time, she just doesn't. Like, she's not that person. She's a 50s housewife on the outside, but underneath she's like, but also I hate you. I will not hate you. I will not be subservient to you. I think being nice to everybody is stupid. Like, Carol, if your casserole sucks, I'm going to ask you why the hell you brought this casserole to my house. You know, like, that's Anyanka. So that's why I chose the Housewives Tarot. Again, I hope like I'm kind of articulating what I mean enough for y'all to understand where I'm coming from with some of these. Okay, now we have two more, but I realized that there are two characters that I have forgotten. So I will go ahead and go through the rest of them, and then I'll be thinking of the other decks that I want to use in my head for the other two characters. Okay, here we go. Next one are our two boys, our two big bad boys, and they're Angel and Spike. Angel, oy vey. I don't really like Angel. There, I said it. I don't like his relationship with Buffy. I don't like the toxicity that is there. I don't like the kind of controlling nature that he has. And quite frankly, I feel like he's just kind of a whiny little bitch boy, if I may say so myself. Granted, he has his soul and loses it and has his soul again and then loses it and has his soul again. So, like, he's tortured, yes, absolutely. However, I still feel like he's a whiny little boy. So, I don't like Angel. And again, I haven't watched the series Angel. Everybody says to watch that, but I just don't like Angel. He is our broody, moody boy. So, for him, I chose the Darkness of Light Tarot and the Fyodor Pavlov Tarot. Darkness of Light Tarot is one of those decks that it is set in the here and now. This is, these are the backs. I edged mine in a matte black, just kind of go with the mood. It's kind of one of those decks that I feel like transcends time a little bit. It's all very moody and dark, as you can see. There's a lot of snow in the blade suit. The coin suit is a lot of brown, like fall. And it just kind of, it fits Angel's vibe to me. It feels like a deck that he could kind of relate to. Like, in this card, for example, I've always felt like this man is waiting for the pentacles. Like, they're grown, but you're not seeing the green, ripe field. You're seeing it almost painted in this light where it's brooding, it's moody. Like, you don't necessarily feel the abundance, in my opinion, in this card. The thing that comes across is not like, look at what I have, it's just not ready yet. His mood is the focus. Like, how much longer do I have to wait? Why am I still waiting? Like, I don't know. It just kind of gives me, angsty vibes. I don't know. Every card feels like it's in, it's very aptly named, like the Darkness of Light. There is light, but even the light isn't bright. It's like you're skulking around in shadows. So, I don't know. This to me just feels like a deck I could see Angel using. Not too many bright colors. There's these pinks, and there is a little bit of sun, but not much. The rest of the deck it's just moody and broody and just, yeah, moody and broody. So that was my first Angel deck, and that's the Darkness of Light Tarot. The next deck I chose for him, in this beautiful, lovely wrap bag. Ooh, about lost these cards. Thought I closed the box. Sorry, hold on. Okay. This beautiful, lovely wrap bag made for me by the wonderful Jess at Jess Reads Cards. This houses my Fyodor Pavlov Tarot. So I feel like the Fyodor Pavlov fits into Angel's world because he was seemingly created around kind of like colonial times, kind of. Maybe not true colonial, obviously it was a little bit before then, but just kind of old English kind of vibe, which kind of fits this. It's very decadent. The edges are gold, the backs have gold inlay on the stars. It's very decadent and it's very classic. And I just feel like this is a deck that Angel would appreciate. Again, the colors are, while they're beautiful, they're a little bit more muted. You do have this bright red, which obviously as a vampire you'd probably dig. But yeah, it just kind of feels grounded and earthy and decadent. And it just kind of feels like a deck that fresh Angel would have used back in the day. It feels like a timeless art piece. And the clothes as well remind me kind of the time period that he's from. So, yeah. This is my Fyodor Pavlov Tarot. My second tarot deck for Angel. Bleh. He's a whiny boy, man. Anyway, okay. I really want to save my last character for last. So, I think we will go in with Riley. Now, Riley is one of those characters that I think he was good for Buffy for a time. I think he definitely grew on me, but again, he was another very controlling kind of possessive, all or nothing rather, partner. That to me is Riley. He's also, a soldier. He is first and foremost very by the book, very just very, very dependable though for Buffy as we go on. But I think the first deck that I'm going to choose for Riley is my James Bond tarot deck, the 007. Partly because I feel like with Riley being a soldier, he can kind of appreciate the connection there to 007 and Secret Agent. I feel like he would also kind of maybe dig the style of this one. But I definitely feel like because the undertone is, this is the deck that was featured in the James Bond movie. There is a tarot reader and she reads from this deck. And I just get the feeling that Riley would really like, I just feel like he would like this deck. Yeah. I guess it all really ties back to the 007 thing. It's not necessarily even the deck. It just kind of reminds me of something that I feel like Riley would use because it's associated with 007 and James Bond, right? So anyway, that's deck 1 for Riley. I'm trying to think if I have a deck 2 for Riley. You know what? I think I do. The other deck for Riley that I'm going to choose is the Lubanco Tarot. This has to do, in my opinion, it's very dreamy, very masculine energy. It is flowy, yet there's still structure. And I feel like this is more Riley as he goes on in the series. I feel like once he kind of becomes acquainted with Buffy in her world, in her, position as the Slayer, as he comes to know the world through her, and as he goes through his own process of, being a soldier, being kind of captured, being tormented, the kind of angst that he goes through within his relationship with Buffy. It just kind of, I don't know. It just, again, for some reason, it just kind of lends me a Riley feel. I don't know. But I do really, really like it. I love this deck. I actually use this deck for when I do readings on my dreams. Occasionally. On the dreams that I remember enough to write down. Or that I remember enough to be able to think through later. You ever have that where sometimes your dreams just like they evaporate the minute you wake up, and then the other ones, they just like, they stay and you remember them? Anyway, this card in particular really makes me feel like Riley. Like, he's kind of torn between two worlds. Does he stay a soldier? Does he be a man? Does he, can he function in this world of demons without just every single one of them is bad, I have to kill them all? Like, can he grow into that world? Can he exist there? And also his own personal demons, is he strong enough to fight them? So, yeah, that's my other Riley deck. I think that fits. But that is the Lubanco Tarot. Okay. Oh, my other deck, or my other character rather, is Faith. I've got one deck for, well, no, I have 2 decks for Faith. I lied. Okay. So, for Faith, I'm actually going to grab these decks that are right here. Okay. Okay. All right. So the decks that I'm going to use for Faith are the Blood Moon Tarot and the Sonya Tarot. Now, Faith is another one of those characters that is completely, she's complex. She's a very layered character. She's an interesting character. She's definitely got her own demons to fight. She kind of comes in and teaches Buffy about how to really give into her intuition, to give into her innate knowledge, to not fight her reflexes when it comes to being the Slayer, and how she does her job. And so the Blood Moon Tarot is the first deck that I think of when I think of Faith, because it, to me, is extremely sensual. And it is otherworldly, but it's romantic, in my opinion. I mean, it's literally dark, and it's kind of a, I don't know, I guess you could say kind of a creepy world, but it's like, I feel like it's a beautiful metaphor for like beauty and pain, and like navigating this wild world and kind of giving into it and learning to thrive there, if that makes sense. It's just very, again, very sensual, very, very intuitive, very dreamy. It does show you stuff, but you're gonna have a good time. And there is pleasure to be found in this deck. There's also pain, and you kind of get all kinds of layers here, and it just feels like there's not one thing that this deck does. It does lots of things. It does everything. And it's very earthy and watery, and to me, that kind of like, this could be Faith right here in this card. Yeah, I don't know. It's just this mysterious beauty that I just feel like it fits for Faith, just when you think you've got a handle on a card and what it means, how you think it translates, it'll completely change on you. And the readings that I get from this deck are immensely powerful, and it is beautiful. This artwork is just something else. So that is the Blood Moon Tarot. This kind of represents the sensual, evocative side of Faith. And then for her deeper side, I have the Sonya Tarot. This deck, first of all, talked about it before as well. This deck was based on the creator's experience with sleep paralysis. And so it has to do with shadows and dreams. And it's another one that's really grounded and really earthy. But it's private. You never see anybody's face. it's highly emotive without letting you all the way in. I feel like it has its own secrets. I feel like there's so much depth to this deck that it's hard to get a grasp on it at once. So it's not a slow burner in that I haven't loved it from the beginning, because I absolutely have. But it's a slow burner in that when I read with this deck, I take time. And I let it tell me what it wants to tell me. And I go where it wants me to go. And some people are very, very intimidated by this deck. Some people, it kind of creeps them out. Some people, it makes them highly uncomfortable. And I get it. I totally, totally get it. And if this is not a deck that you are in a safe space to use, completely understand. You have to know what's right for you. But man, when you're ready to go there, when you're ready to dive deep, when you're ready to really figure some stuff out, this deck, man. So, but again, nobody's faces are shown. So it doesn't let you in all the way. And I feel like that's kind of how Faith keeps everybody at arm's length. She never lets you too close. Never lets you too close. She's just a multifaceted character with lots of depth, and she doesn't let you close. And there's also pain there, and there's brooding, and there's so much that we don't know. So that's Faith. That's the Sonya Tarot and the Blood Moon Tarot. Okay, guys. We have made it to the final deck. I'm surprised, quite frankly, that I am still standing. My back is starting to hurt. So let's wrap this shit up, shall we? My last deck selection is for my favorite character in the entire Buffy series. And that is Sir William the Bloody himself, Spike. Oh, Spike. Where do I even begin? So, I think Spike's the most layered onion that we have in the entire series. I think he is wildly complex. I think he is also at the same time extremely simple. He pisses you off. He kind of scares you. He tempts you. He protects you. He wants to be big and bad, but he is a bleeding heart. He is a soul tortured. That's just shit off the top of my head to kind of summarize how I feel about Spike. For him, I've chosen Tarot V and the Victorian Romantic Tarot. And actually, I'm going to start with this one. So, when we meet Sir William the Bloody, we meet him as a villain. We meet him as a big bad. But as we go on in the series and we learn his story, we know that deep down he is a lover. He is called William the Bloody because of his bloody, horrible poetry. Spike just wants to be loved. He is a man scorned. He is a lover scorned. He just wants someone. Even though he is a demon, even though he feeds on the blood of humans, even though he comes as this big, dark, evil force that Buffy has to deal with, throughout the series, we come to discover him for who he truly is. He operates from his place of pain, but deep down, he is driven by love. He even says at one point something like, I know I'm evil, but at least I'm not afraid to love. Like, even though I may be a bad guy, even though you see me as this like horrible demon, at least I'm not afraid to show people that I'm a lover. Again, I'm paraphrasing. I don't remember exactly what he says. But yeah. So this represents the more romantic side, I think, of Spike. The more poetic and loving and softer human side that we met when we met William the Bloody. There's still something painful about some of these artworks in this deck. You know, some of the images hurt, like this Three of Swords. It hurts, you know, but it's a romantic hurt. It's just a whole feeling. I don't know. This just feels to me like a William the Bloody deck. This is who he is underneath his facade of the big bad. That's the Victorian Romantic Tarot. This next deck, Tarot V by Alejandro Colucci. I got both this deck and Tarot Z, which is the zombie tarot. Not to be confused with the literal zombie tarot. But I bought both this and Tarot Z after seeing Fairlight Tarot's video about them. And watching her talk about them, she's 100% right. I had never wanted these decks badly enough until she kind of talked about them. And then I was like, holy crap, I need that. This to me represents, again, Spike, obviously, but it represents his journey. Now, the thing about this deck, it looks very dark, very creepy, very bloody, very dark. Something dark. And this is, to me, what Spike would have you believe. This right here is what Spike would have you believe that he could be. This complete demonic monster with these giant bat wings and pointy ears and blood. This hidden vampire in the grave ready to take his victim or her victim. This cool, suave, moody, brooding guy that's ready to pounce and bite and claim his next victim. This beautiful woman who can turn into this demon in a moment's time. But the thing about this deck, if you read the guidebook, these characters are simply lost. There is kind of a quiet tragedy to them. They begin to function as they are in this life because there is no other way now. Because it is how they have to be. Let me find... Okay, so let's take a look at the Four of Wands here. Okay, Four of Wands. Vampire celebrations tend to leave a pronounced effect on our surroundings. Well, okay, that's not a good example. Let's see. Let's actually do the King of Cups. I lied. Okay. So King of Cups. The exemplary hospitality of the vampire is a useful tool, putting peasants, minions, and prey at ease as they marvel at your largesse. A steady soul and helpful advisor, balancing emotion and logic, will give you the clearest map for how to proceed. Consider the merits of professional counseling. So, maybe that was a bad example too, but you just kind of get the feeling that these are tortured souls who they simply have to make it work because this is who they are now. This is what they are. Let's see if I feel like that one might be good. Yeah, okay. Perfect example. Nine of Swords. The night poses no problem for us. It is the darkness within that can be all-consuming. So, like, you know, there's cards. It's kind of in Tarot Z, too. Like, you kind of get the idea that the zombies are just going around living life as best they can, even though they're zombies. Like, they're making do. And it just kind of goes to show that, like, there's so many facets to the vampire. There's so much to these beings than gives credit for, rather. And yeah, this just kind of, again, it represents what he would have you see, but also it doesn't shy away from the inner turmoil that the characters are feeling. And the book talks about how they exist and why they do what they do to survive. Like, well, we're a member of the undead and we have to consume people. So how can we do that the most effective way so that we can continue living? Even if it's a damned life, it's our life now. So what do we have to do? And I just kind of thought that spoke to Spike's more tortured side. So, that is Tarot V by Alejandro Colucci. Man, y'all have survived. I am wildly impressed and ever so grateful that you guys hung out with me for this long. I hope you enjoyed my musings and my rambling and my opinions and my viewpoints on all the wonderful Buffy characters. I'm, again, so excited that I'm finally participating in the fandom. I 100% get it. And this will be something that I cherish for a long time, for a long, long time. It's just one of those series that truly has, it truly started a revolution, and it truly formed this whole culture. So, again, thank you guys for spending time with me. I hope you enjoyed this video. And yeah, as I said, the link to Rumer's original video will be down below. Don't be afraid to write a comment down here. Let me know what you thought. Let me know if you had different choices. If you do a VR, you know, let me know below so that I can go watch it, because I'm loving them. And anyway, that is it, she says for the 10th time. Until next time, bye guys.